Well, folks, it is that time of year that we talk about the state that is the most complicated for non-residents. And it's easy for me because I'm a resident of Montana. How we have come up with this convoluted, messed up, archaic 1972 model of licensing is beyond me. I mean, it is 2022. You would think that Montana could have made it a little easier by now. But since they delete all my emails, I have to explain to you this really complicated system. So, here we go. April 1st, no, it's not, this is not an April Fool's joke, but the deadline is April 1st, 2022. Don't wait until April 1st. Do it before then if you're interested in Montana. If for somehow you miss the draw, there is a point purchase period in Montana from July 1st through September 30th. But don't miss it. The first thing I'm going to talk about is what the upfront costs are to apply in Montana. Now, again, maybe before I even get to there, I should explain there's a lot of changes in Montana this year. One of them is the fact that now we're whacking you $100 for a preference point instead of $50. Non-residents, man, we wrote the book on how to lay it to you. And then, if you want to, you can buy also a bonus point. So, preference points, bonus points. Now you're saying, well, which is it, Randy? We'll get into that later. We have both, and you're subject to both of them. So here's the upfront fees. We're going to talk about three different types of licenses that you're probably applying for. You can do what's called the big game combo, which includes deer, elk, upland bird, and fishing. They call it a combo because it includes fishing and upland bird. So if you want the tag that's called the big game combo, you're going to front $1,145.50. And if you want what's called the elk combo, which is elk, upland bird, and fishing, you're going to front $971.50. And if you just want the deer combo, which is deer, upland bird, and fishing, you're going to front $683.50. And then on top of that, we're going to charge you a transaction fee of $1.25 plus 2.5%. So you take all that and you're going to front a pretty decent chunk of money, and you're going to pay some fees. You're going to get some of it back, most of it back if you're unsuccessful, but not all of it. A couple other things to think about. There's 17,000 elk tags and 4,600 deer tags in this general tag pool. So in Montana, most of our state for both deer and elk is general. But for elk, you start getting to central Montana, eastern, southeastern Montana. Those become limited entry elk areas. For deer, we have very few limited entry deer units, but we have some over in the Bitterroot, one up by Fort Peck, one up on the Rocky Mountain front. So again, most of the deer and most of the state is general for deer. Now, if you want one of those limited entry elk or limited entry deer opportunities, that's going to be bonus points. And you're going to be competing with the residents for up to 10% of those tags. So you kind of got to clear one hurdle, okay? The first hurdle as a non-resident you have to clear is you have to draw a general deer or a general elk tag. You clear that hurdle, and then you can be on the same application. You say, if I clear that hurdle, I want to be in the limited entry draw for the deer or the elk. And when you're going through and doing all this, I get so many emails on the Montana system It's like, oh, it's asking me if I want to buy a preference point if unsuccessful. Yeah, preference points over here govern the general tag. Well, but now it's asking me, do I want to buy a bonus point? Yeah, if unsuccessful over here, do you want to buy a bonus point for the limited entry draws? So general is preference points, limited entry is bonus points. I got to emphasize that because it's so confusing the way that we do it in Montana. I'm just going to jump in. Since I'm touching on points, I'm going to talk about how the preference points work in the general system. You're allowed one preference point a year towards your general tags, unless you go with an outfitter. If you're signed up with an outfitter, they let you buy 2 preference points. But all the rest of you serfs, you peasants, you only get to buy 1. What a crocker. You know what. Anyhow, you can't accumulate more than 3 preference points. They cap us at 3 preference points. Or not us, you, at 3 preference points. So in addition to changing the rule or changing the fee, you also want to pay attention that if you don't apply, there's new rules about what happens to your preference points. If Montana issued, a lot of states, the first page of their regulations is changes for this year. And in Wyoming, it's like 4 or 5 sentences. Colorado might be 10 sentences. Montana, they'd have to issue its own separate booklet for how much they change everything. So read the fine print. Download the regulation. Have that up on your screen while you're applying. If you really want a good dive in it, Go Hunt has they've done a really good explanation of the Montana point system this year. They did a strategy article on it. It does as good a job of clarifying this as anything I've read. And if you want in on their system with all their strategy articles, go sign up using promo code Randy and they'll give you $50 of credit in their gear shop. So, no, I've kind of been dissing on Montana about how complicated it is. Now let's just put the complaining aside and let's walk through how it works. I was there listening to the hearings when this legislative rule was passed, and the way it got worded is not the intention that I understood listening to the hearing, but it is the law. So here we go. Montana takes 75% of the tags, the general tags, all right? Big game combo, elk combo, deer combo. They carve away 75% of them and they say, these are going to the people with the greatest number of preference points. A big number of those tags are going to the people with 3 points. If there are any tags left over, they drop down and get allocated among the people with 2 points. So now you're saying, well, what happens to the other 25% of the tags? Well, here's what happens to them. They go over here, and instead of starting at the top with the maximum number of points, they start at the bottom, and everybody with 0 points gets a tag or is in the draw for those. And once they fill everybody at the 0 point level, they move up to the people with 1 point. So we're kind of 75% of it is top down, 25% is bottom up. So I don't know of any state where if you have 0 points, your odds are better than if you have 1 point. But in Montana, that's the case. So when you're doing party applications, think about this, okay? And here's what I mean by that. You can put up to 5 people on a party application and we average it. So say you have 2 people at 3 points and then you have 1 person with 0 points. So you average that, 3 plus 3 plus 0 is 6 divided by 3. You got an average of 2. So by doing a party application, you've taken the 2 people out of the high 3-point level, where they probably would have drawn, and you've taken the person out of the 0-point level, where they would have had a better chance to draw. And now you've put yourself there at the 2-point level, kind of in between. So when you're doing party applications, think about that. There's some times where it's better to, we call it bifurcate. That's an accountant's way of saying split. Put the high point people at the high level and put the lower point people in an application at the low level. Because the way Montana does it, starting from the top and working down with 75% of the tags and 25% of the tags starting at the bottom and working up, you might have better odds doing it that way. So, don't ask me where they picked this date, but if you have a youth hunter who has passed hunter education and is going to be 12 years old by January 16th of 2023, I don't know what January 16th of 2023. All I can figure is some legislator had a child that has a birthday on January 15th and wanted to throw them back in and make it so they could hunt or something. So there's rules about youth hunting. General rule, if you're 11 and going to be 12 that year, they can probably come. And there's different fees for youth hunters than the ones I gave above. Read the regulations. I would say as a default, anytime we do these videos, if you're interested in going hunting somewhere, it's really helpful if you spend a couple hours reading the regulations of that state. And in there is this weird quirk of how youth hunting is classified in Montana. So, not everybody needs to take hunter education. If you were born after January 1st, 1985, if you're born after that date, you need to have passed a certified hunter education course. And if you're younger than that, you may as well, or older than that, you may as well go do it anyhow, because most of these other states, it goes way back to like Civil War times or something. I had too much coffee this morning. So, let's say that you draw your general tag in Montana. We have the same general season dates for deer and elk. And here's the general season dates. Archery is 6 weeks long and it runs from September 3rd to October 16th. The general rifle season is 5 weeks long. It runs from October 22nd to November 27th. So late October to late November. And now we have the new muzzleloader season that came in last year. It's 9 days long. It runs from December 10th through December 18th. But before you come here with your muzzleloader, make sure you read the restrictions. It's supposed to be a traditional muzzleloader hunt. In between all that, we got earlier cow tags. We got later cow seasons. We call them shoulder seasons. I wish we'd get rid of them, but we have them. So go read your regulations. Those are the 3 main season types that you're going to be looking at. 6 weeks of archery, 5 weeks of rifle, 9 days of muzzleloader. So earlier I said that in the draw itself, you can refund your tag. So got your general tag, didn't get your limited entry tag, you checked the box that said refund 80% of my money. Well, you can get refunds after the draw. And here's how it works. You can get a refund on your general tag for up to 80% so long as you do it before August 1st. After August 1st, you only get a 50% refund. And once season starts, you get a 0% refund. So don't be sleeping at the switch there. Some of you probably are thinking, well, what do we have as far as public land to hunt in Montana? Well, like a lot of states, Montana is mostly private in the east, and as you get further west, it gets to be mostly public. And in between There's a mix, and you got to be paying attention in Montana because our trespass laws say it's your responsibility to know. The landowner does not even have to post their property as no trespassing. It's your responsibility. So know that with, like Go Hunt mapping systems, just, you know it. It's right there. It tells you who owns it. Don't trespass. Now, I said most of the private is in eastern Montana, but when you get to my part of the world in western Montana, most of the valleys are private. Later in the season, in our rifle seasons, between weather and hunting pressure, the elk and deer get pushed lower. That's mostly private. So 1/3 public, 2/3 private. The state has said, hey, how do we get some access to the 2/3 that is private? Because most of that is either leased to outfitters or leased to private parties. The state, for a long time, I think Montana was the first state that came up with this idea. We call it the block management program. And that is where it's in the many millions of acres of private land are enrolled, where that private landowner gets paid for the impacts of allowing public hunting. So whatever region you're hunting in, Montana has 7 regions, you can either go online or you can call that regional office and get the maps of these properties. And there's 2 types of properties. One of them, you just show up, there'll be a sign-in box, there'll be these little green signs, there's a booklet, you fill out all your information, and that's your permission slip. So the second part is a high demand system where it's by reservation only. And you'll have to look in the booklet or look online to see what the process is for those reservations. Either you got to call the landowner or you got to call Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. There's a deadline for when they start taking reservations. So, but there's a lot of hunting opportunity there. We are allowed to hunt state trust lands in Montana. Those are the little powder blue sections that you see on your map. Your hunting license allows you to go there because we pretty much make you buy a state access stamp as part of your package. With all that, when you have 2/3 private, 1/3 public, expect some pretty crowded conditions. Yeah, Montana's a big state. We have a lot of good country here to hunt in, but our public is getting more crowded and more crowded as we have an increase in resident numbers, as we have all these other ways for non-residents to get tags. It's getting crowded. Just expect that when you come here. So, I don't know if I've covered it all. Know that your deadline is April 1st, 2022. You got to go online, and it's going to be a challenge to check all these boxes and know what you're signing up for. Just know, as a general rule, you're applying first for your general tag. The elk deer combo, what we call the big game combo, elk combo or deer combo. Well, you're going to get to pick one of those 3. If you draw that, then you could ask to be put into the limited entry draws. And you're going to have to front quite a bit of fees in order to do it. And Montana usually turns their draw results around still in the month of April, usually within 3 weeks. So you'll know pretty soon whether or not you drew. I wish that it wasn't so complicated, but it is. If you're a non-resident wanting to hunt in Montana, you got to do a lot of research. And this video is just a very small piece of it. Out on Go Hunt, they do these strategy articles, these strategy videos. They give you a ton more detail than what I've provided here. So if you go out there and use promo code Randy, they'll give you $50 of money in their gear shop for signing up for the Insider. Other than that, good luck. I hope you draw your tag. Think about the strategy of how to use your points. Once you use your points, think about the strategy of if you want to even be spending that money to buy more points. So, hope you draw your tag this year. See you out in the woods.